Hello, welcome. Today we are going to look at some of the cards that I picked basically randomly, but also asked from people on Reddit. The cards which should tell us a story and do tell us a big story, but should have had their own real story, like the ones we are seeing now, for example with Edge of Eternities. And we should really get one of those long ones from Wizards of the Coast. For example, this cathartic reunion between a dinosaur and his human says that the soldier had given up his wealth, his title, even his home, which is very nice of him to do on Ikoria, where, well, if you choose to do that, you might never come back. But he had no room for regret. At last, he had saved his friend. What did he save his friend from? And why did he give up everything just for this dinosaur? I mean, now they are friends, but I would have liked to see the story. There are so many more examples of which probably you can tell me a bunch more ones that might be even better. But we are looking at some today. This is a classic one from M12, where Titanic Grove shows us a puppy that looked over the treetops, eyeing the man who had just yesterday kicked her. Suddenly her hunger was infused with pure delight. I would have liked to see this story. But also I think it is interesting that we see a sort of convergent evolution of cards where the story on multiple cards, in this case with the same name, have the same, well, story. For example, we got it later in Eldraine, where it is about a Fae that says that you need a bigger net, Mr. Fae Catcher. So the same story happens on multiple worlds, and I think these people should get together, the dog and the Fae. We also have the Bonder's Enclave on Ikoria again. We had the idea that people could become a Bonder, and it seems, or it feels like there's a lot of story hidden in there, but really we should have been able to see more of the Bonders. It says there's a sanctuary that reveals itself only to those graced by the Eluta. The mystical connection between Bonder and monster. And there are multiple paintings here, so there's a bit of history as well. And we didn't really get to learn any of it. Then there are so many characters, and today I've chosen just one, but there are multiple interesting characters that should have gotten their own stories. Again, let me know which ones you would like to see a story about. But Juma, for example, got one story, so did get a story, but it was just not really about him and the connection with the plant folk. And here we see him carrying his plant folk baby away from a house, and I just think, what is happening here? Why did he get him, and will he bring him back? And for example, a small one like this on Ravnica, where drakes become especially voracious as they prepare for their autumn migration, hunting the cities through fairs from dawn to dusk. How did they deal, or how do they deal with this problem every year? We just see people running away, but there must be an answer to these drakes. I mean, I know Niv Mizzet doesn't really do anything about it, so will the Boros just fight this drake? I don't know how. That will be an interesting story, but it isn't there. And for example, this moment on Strixhaven, where the sky was blotted out with inklings, which normally are a nuisance, but a torrent of them is a menace. How did they solve this? Who did this? And is this something that happens more often with the Silver Quill classes? Then Annihilating Glare tells us the story of Vraska working for Sheoldred, I think. By Gaze, Sting and Claw, Vraska will see the will of Phyrexia done. And here she is killing one of Elesh Norn's soldiers. But why is she doing this? Why were they fighting, and why didn't they win? These are very important questions to me. I know that she fought in the arena, but it seems like she is outside of it. And if she is in the arena, I think we should have seen more of it than just her attacking Jace. Sorry, spoilers. Also, we have some old ones where I am not entirely sure if we got the story. But for example, this one has someone return 4 times. Ta Carnes, who here says, may the river claim Chomano's body wherever it lies. Then on another card he says, do you want to be alive or whole? Which means he must be I don't know, but the person is still alive, so well, I guess they're healing him. But then later he learned some less evasive things. Orym taught Karnst and the other Cho-Aram healers a far less invasive method of healing. Apparently, you could just pour a glass of water over someone and his arm would be fixed too. And then it says, as long as Rushwood glows, no life is ever truly lost. Well, that's a miracle to me with the practices that they had. But it would be interesting to see a healer story, because usually in Magic, of course, there are so many people who just attack all the time, that maybe it is a nice change of pace that there's just someone who heals people badly. Back to Phyrexia, where we have the Phyrexian Vindicator, and it did have a counterpart as well. But here it is fighting in the arena of Sheoldred, where Elesh Norn sent him to fight in. So does Elesh Norn do this more often? I would have liked to see more of these fights. Like, for example, this one should be really interesting because these are both really strong champions. And what will they do to fight each other, and what would that look like? We didn't see it, but it would be very interesting. And here we see him again, and how this is just such a flashy horror that didn't get any chance in the spotlight. Maybe it shouldn't, but anyways. Sanguine Bond is, I think, a great example of a card that so many people have played or played against that didn't get a real story. Because here we have Verdeen the Vampire Nocturnus that says blood is constant, every drop I drink someone must bleed. But what happens, what does he do, and why is he keeping it in his hands like he doesn't even care? And what is that Sanguine Bond? Does that just mean that he is drinking from someone, or is he actually bonding with a certain person? And the last one, we have the Cathar's Call, which I think is really a shame, because it says some Cathars succumb to despair at Avacyn's unmaking, the rest redoubled their efforts to carry out her work, but we never really did see all of the Cathars working together to, well, redouble her work. We saw one, I think, that did still work, but wasn't really very good at it. At least he wasn't really trying his best to be a good force of nature. We should have seen at least one story about the Cathars trying to fix Avacyn's disappearance, or maybe stand in for her, but we really didn't see any of it. And apparently there's a big army of Cathars trying to bring hope to their world, and that's just a shame that we didn't get to see this. But this one was a very short and sweet, but I would like to know if you have any other examples of cards that you would like to see into a story. Maybe we could do some of them, put them into a story, or perhaps we could do this set by set. Let me know what you want to do. And with that, I wish you a very nice day. Bye.